Alright, we are reviewing for our test tomorrow. This is Algebra 2 review for test 3.3, and this will cover radicals, complex numbers, solving by square roots, quadratic equation, and solving by completing the square. So I'll do a couple of each, and then, as always, rewatch till you feel comfortable for the test tomorrow. Okay? Those of you at home, hopefully you have the calculator, like I said. If not, almost all the questions are still very doable, and you should be able to do well on the test. So we're looking at number one. It says solve each quadratic equation below using the quadratic formula. On the test, just like here, you'll know when to do what. So here we know we need to do the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula is x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. Now, my face-to-face students, I played a corny but catchy video for them to remember it. But honestly, you can have your notes. Make sure you know this equation. For face-to-face students, it'll be written on the board. Also, I have a poster in my classroom. So I wanted y'all to memorize it, but honestly, you can just make sure you have your notes. I'm sure y'all use them anyway, but just make sure you have the formula and you know what to do. So all we do from here is just plug the numbers in. We know this is A, this is B, and this is C. So let's plug it in. That equals negative 8, because B is 8, plus or minus the square root of 8 squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 120. All of that is over 2 times a, which is 2. Now from here, we just do math. I always say to do everything under the square root first, okay? So 8 squared is 64, all right? And one piece of advice I told my face-to-face students, I think I said it in a video before, don't write this minus here, just do this math. Negative 4 times 2 times negative 120, because if it ends up being positive, we write a positive here. So don't just assume it's still minus, because I'm going to take this negative and assign it to this 4 and then multiply all three numbers. So negative 4 times 2 is negative 8. Negative 8 times negative 120, negative times a negative, we know is a positive. So that's why I don't write the symbol yet. So negative 8 times negative 120 is positive 960. Add that together, you get 1024. The square root, because don't forget this was under the square root, the square root of 1024 is 32. Luckily, it's an even number, okay? If it wasn't, we would have to simplify the radical, which is what we learned the first part of this unit, and I will show you later on one of the problems, okay? So now we have negative 8 plus or minus 32 over 2 times 2 is 4. Now this is easy. Remember, plus or minus means you're going to do two things. The first one, you're going to do negative 8 plus 32 divided by 4. And then the second one, you're going to do negative 8 minus 32 divided by 4 to get our two answers. Okay? So negative 8 plus 32 is a positive 24. 24 divided by 4 is 6. So that's our first answer. Our second answer, negative 8 minus 32, is a negative 40. Negative 40 divided by 4 is a negative 10. So our final answers are 6 and negative 10. All right. Shouldn't be too bad. Like I said, you should have the equation with you. You should know it. Again, it's not hard to do. It's just long. So remember, we know B, we know A, and we know C. We just fill it in and then do math. Okay? Let me do one more like this. Like I said, I know it's long. I don't want to make too long of a video. I want to try to keep it under 20 minutes. But again, this is a review. This is very important. So I want to do number 2 because B is negative, and I want to show you what happens when B in the equation is negative. Watch this. So again, we know x equals negative B plus or minus, and then the rest of the equation. So x equals negative And then whatever b is, since b itself is negative, you keep that there. Okay, don't just assume, oh, x equals -2. No, here x equals -2 because the equation says x equals -b. Since b by itself is -2, you add that where b is supposed to be, and just the equation says -b. So it become a positive. So x equals -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c. All of that is over 2 times a, which a is 1. So this is really easy math. Let's do under the square root first. -2 squared. Sorry. -2 squared is 4 positive 4. Don't forget -2 squared. Don't forget your positives and negatives. -2 squared means -2 times -2, which is +4. Now let's see if we're going to make it minus or a plus. -4 times 1 is -4. -4 times 1 is -4. So -4 minus 4, I'm sorry, 4 minus 4 is 0. The square root of 0 is 0. That's really easy, okay? So we come back over here. We found everything under here to be 0. X equals -2 plus or minus 0 divided by 2. Well, we know a negative times a negative is a positive. All right, so let's move down here. 2 plus or minus 0 divided by 2. Well, here I don't want you to overthink it. 2 plus 0 is 2. 2 minus 0 is 2. So this can go away. This whole part can go away. 2 divided by 2 is 1. And because the square root of 0 was 0, we only have one answer on this problem. Most of them will have 2, but this one had 1 because we were square rooting 0. Because 2, remember right here, 2 plus 0 is 2. 2 minus 0 is 2. It was the same number. Okay, and then 2 divided by 2 is 1. All right? So that's the end of quadratic formula. Again, it's not hard. It's just long to do. We scroll down. This time it says solve each quadratic equation by completing the square. Again, the problems on the test should say what to do. This is what we just did yesterday and Monday. Okay? So what we need to do is, first, we need to put it in ax squared plus bx equals c. So we know the last number without a letter is always c. So all we have to do is move that over. Looking at number 5, minus 36, minus 36. So now we have b squared minus 20b equals -36. Okay? Then from here, we divide by a if there was a number there, but there is no number, so it's just 1, so we move on. Now we take half of b. B is this, so half of that is -10. We square it to get positive 100. Please don't forget, a negative number squared means the negative times a negative, which is a positive 100. And then we add it to both sides, getting b squared minus 20b, minus 20b plus 100 equals -36 plus positive 100 is now a positive 64. Then from here, we factor this perfect square trinomial. Again, like we learned just the other day, perfect square trinomial means both our factors will be the same exact number. So you'll really write it as x, whatever it is, squared. And the reason we'll do that is because we'll have to square root it later. So, and again, to remind you, those of you that forget how to factor, this is b, this is c, and this is a. So there's a, b, c. We need to find two numbers that add up to b, which is -20, and multiply to be a times c, which is 100. All right? So what are the factors of 100 that can get us to 20? 1 and 100, no. 2 and 50, no. So on and so forth. We get down to 10 and 10. Can that get us to positive 100? Yes. How can it get us to add up to negative 20? We make both of them negative. Negative 10 times negative 10 is positive 100, but negative 10 plus negative 10 is negative 20. So see, they're the same exact numbers. So what it would look like is x minus 10 times x minus 10. We can rewrite that as x minus 10 squared. That's important because when we get to our next step of square rooting, you'll see why it's important. So from here, our next step is to square root both sides. Square root this, square root that. Now I told my face-to-face students there's no trick to this. You're just gonna have to trust me on this. The square root, this thing, this radical means square root. The square root of something squared is itself. So basically think about this as canceling out. Those cancel out, and x minus 10 equals the square root of 64 is 8. Then from here, we just solve. We make two cases, because remember, square root has two cases, so x minus 10 equals positive 8, and x minus 10 equals negative 8. All right, now we add 10 to both sides, plus 10, oops, that's 10. This x equals a positive 2, and then plus 10, plus 10. This x equals 18, and we are done. Like I said, it's not hard to do, it's just long. Steps I noticed face-to-face students forgetting. They forgot how to factor up here. Please don't forget, you label A, B, and C, and you find two numbers that add up to B and multiply to be A times C. Another step they forgot, they found, if we look right here, this negative 10, they did negative 10 squared, but they would put negative 100. Make sure you know it's positive 100. And then once you get this number, please add it to both sides. We added it here, and we added it here to get to 64. Add it to both sides. If you forget to do that, you're going to get it wrong, okay? After you add it to both sides, factor out the perfect square trinomial. You get something x minus something or x plus something squared, and then you square root both sides, and then solve both equations. All right, I'll do one more like this. My promise of 20 minutes, I think I'm going to go way past that. But this is important because I want y'all to do well on this test. We'll do one more like this. B squared plus 4b minus 96 equals 0. We know step 1, move the 96 over. And we get b squared, actually I'll move it up here. B squared plus 4b equals 96. All right. Now, because a is 1, we get to just move on, so we don't have to divide by a. Take half of b, b is 4, so 2, square it, we get 4, and then we add it to both sides. Add to both sides. Okay, so add to both sides. So b squared plus 4b plus 4 equals 96 plus 4 is 100. All right, now from here we factor this out. So b is 4, a times c is 4. I want to show you here, this is why it's important to still write out your factors. Because we have to find factors of 4 that add up to be 4. You might just assume, oh yeah, 1 and 4, 1 times 4 is 4, and that'll equal 4. No, 1 times 4 does equal 4, so it's good for a times c, but 1 plus 4 is 5, and our b is not 5. So our factors 1 and 4 do not work. We keep going 2 and 2, those work. 2 times 2 is 4, and 2 plus 2 is 4. So we come back here, x plus 2 squared equals 100. All right, then we know our next step. Square root this side, square root that side. The square root of something squared, those cancel out. X plus 2 equals, in the square root of 100 is 10. Then we make our negative case, which is x plus 2 equals negative 10. Then on both, we just move the 2 over, minus 2, x equals negative 12. All right. And then minus 2, x equals 8. And we're done. So again, that is how you solve the quadratic equation by completing the square. Move the c over, divide by a if there is a number, take half of b, square it, add it to both sides, factor it out, get the perfect square trinomial, which should be the same number twice, then square root both sides. The square root of x plus 2 squared is just x plus 2. The square root of 100 is just 10. You set up your positive case and your negative case, and then you solve. All right, moving on. We're at about 16 minutes. Those two were the hardest parts of this unit. We're getting back to complex numbers. I'm just going to do one of them. This is the one where I hope you have your calculator, especially for the multiplying. So for like 9 and 10, you got to type it in the calculator exactly how you see it. So I hope you have the TI Nspire calculator or some access to a calculator that would do that and have the I. Make sure you're not typing in the keyboard I, but the special I, which in the notes, it's under the pi button, okay? But even if you don't have it, you can take an educated guess. Remember, it's just multiplying. It's just distributing all that, all right? Except I times I is -1. But looking at number 8, like I said, I'll be quick. When we are adding, we are just combining like terms. You don't need a calculator for this. 1 plus -4 is -3. 1 plus -4 is -3. Then -5i plus 2i is -3i. And we're done. That's it. Again, like I said, when you're multiplying it, you can take an educated guess, or hopefully you have your calculator. You type it in exactly how you see it, even for adding. Type it in exactly how you see it. All right, looking at number 11. Solve the following quadratic equation by taking square roots. This is the one where you need to isolate x squared. You need to get x squared by itself. After that, it's smooth sailing. So how do we get x squared by itself? We're going to add 8 to both sides. Oops, plus 8. We have 6x squared equals 16 plus 8 is 24. Then from here, x squared still isn't by itself. Divide by 6, x squared equals 4. Now it's by itself. So now we square root both sides. Square root, x equals plus or minus 2. Please don't forget that is our answer. X equals plus or minus 2. On the test, it's going to say there are 2 answers. And you have to put -2 as one of the answers and +2. It'll be like A and C or B and E or something like that. Don't forget, it's 2 answers, plus or minus 2. Okay, that one was really easy. All we did was we moved 8 over, then we divided by 6, then we square rooted both sides. This should be a breeze. The second one, this is 7x plus 5 equals 252. So we're going to minus 5, 7x squared equals 252. All right. Divide by 7. And we get x squared equals 36. Then we square root both sides, x equals plus or minus 6. And that's it. That's how you do it for those. All right. All right, last part, which is the first thing we did in this unit when we came back from Thanksgiving. Did it last Monday. This is simplify the following radical expressions. This is the one where you really need the TI Nspire, or maybe you can just find the software on Google, figure out how to simplify the following radical expressions. So the first step is menu 2, 3. This is if you have the TI Nspire menu 2, 3 to get the factor. Then you type in the number inside here. 486, we hit enter, we get 2 times 3 to the 5th. That's in there. Then we rewrite it out. 2 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. And the little 5 is in here. This little 5 tells you how many of the same number you're looking for. We are looking for 5 of the same. This 3 has exactly 5. They match up, so they get to leave from under the square root. They get to leave the house. So on the outside, we have 3, and then 5th root, don't forget to write this little 5 here, 2. The 2 has to stay inside. And we're done. That is the simplest form of 5th root of 486. Number 15, we see it's square root of 250. So we hit menu 2, 250. The simplest form is square root of 2 times 5 to the 3rd, or again, rewrite that 2 times 5 times 5 times 5. We are looking for partners because there's no number here, so we know that's a square root. We're looking for pairs, we're looking for partners. There's 2 5s, don't circle all 3. They get to leave the house. 5 on the outside, square root. 2 times 5 is 10. That is the simplest form of the square root of 250. All right, and I'll finish it out with one more. I see I'm at about 21.5 minutes, but let's go down to number 17 just to finish it out. Menu 2, 3, 45. We get 3 squared times 5, or 3 times 3 times 5. All right, we're looking for partners. These 3s are partners. They get to leave the house. And the simplest form of square root of 45 is 3 square root 5. And we're done. So those are really easy. I hope you have the TI Inspire. That is really easy. So we've hit 22 minutes. So that concludes the review. Please make sure you're ready for the test tomorrow. Do great. Turn in all your missing work so you can be exempt. As y'all tell, for the first whole semester, if you turn it in, no matter how late, you probably still are getting a 100. Okay? Turn it in, please. Get all your work in. Do well on this test, and choose my class to be exempt from. All right?